Hey, sometimes the only thing we have to offer is gratitude. Not because life is easy, but because God is good. Hey, I want to welcome everybody that's joining us this morning right here in London for our campuses over in Williamsburg, Bell County, Somerset. For those of you that are joining us online, thanks so much for being with us today. If we've not met, and I've already introduced myself here in London, but if we've not met, my name's Nate, and I get the privilege of leading our Somerset campus about 30 minutes that away. And it's an honor to do that, and it's an honor to be here with you and get to speak to you. Also worth noting, they're not here yet, but my family has put me on a strict 35-minute limit because we leave for vacation as soon as the day is done. So if you see me sprinting toward the exit at the end of the day, just know it's not the spirit, it's just survival, because I don't want to be left behind, because they will leave me. And I'm excited about vacation as well. I love this church, but I'm not missing that. And they're ready to go. So it's going to be a great week ahead of us. But I got a question for you today, and maybe the answer for me is this one, because it's vacation time. But what's the most important day of your life? Have you ever stopped to think about it? Just take a minute. Now, for most of us, we think that would probably be a pretty easy day to recognize. We immediately start to think of the big days, right? Maybe it was our wedding. That's pretty obvious. Right, men? Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe for some of us, it was our first child. Because we had so much trouble having a child to begin with. For some of us, it was that big job we got. Maybe for a few of us, it was that big promotion we got in that big job we got, right? For some, it was graduation. For some of you, this is your first summer out of high school, or maybe your first summer out of college, and you're looking at life and staring it dead in the face. For some, maybe it was baptism or giving your life to Jesus, and hear me, that's an important day. For some in the room, maybe your day was not a positive one. Maybe it was tragedy. Maybe something bad happened, but because of it, you're marked by it. And because of it, it's become an important part of your life, and you're changed. It's changed everything in your life. All of those days mark seasons of our lives. And all of those days, of course, they're important. And I'm not saying they're not important. But let me be clear. The most important day of your life isn't in your past. And here's what's also true. The most important day in your life is also not in your future. That the most important day of your life is today. Because today is the only day you can actually do something with. Because here's the reality. You can't go back tomorrow or to yesterday. You can't go back to yesterday and apply sunscreen. You're a lobster now, and it is what it is, okay? It is what it is. You can't rewind time. You can't change yesterday. You don't get redos. You just get the day, and you move to the next day. And here's what's also true. You can't fast forward. You can't get to tomorrow. I could sit here and waste your today by just watching the moments go by. It's about 3 seconds of your life wasted. So, and that's true. But you can't get there. And here's what's even more concerning for some of us. You're not even guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. All you have and all I have is this moment. This day. Today. And the most important thing in life, it doesn't always show up with fireworks. It doesn't show up with a spotlight and confetti. That sometimes the most important time in your life, the most important day in your life, it starts with an ordinary moment. It starts with a small decision that you made and you chose to respond differently. And that's what makes today matter. And I get it. Today doesn't seem that special. I mean, it's the Sunday after the 4th, all right? You may be sunburned. I hope you're not. You may be dehydrated. You may be sugared out, okay? For some of you, you're trying to figure out what day it is. But here's what I need you to hear. Today could be the most important day of your life. Not because of anything that I have to say. Definitely not because of that, all right? And it's not because something dramatic is going to happen today. It may not. But simply because of what God might say to you. And because of what God might want to do in you. And you get to decide what to do with that. And today, this moment is the only time that you can decide what you're going to do with it. Because today is a decision. Your life isn't unfolding by accident. It's being shaped by the choices that you make today. And every choice that you make today will shape the kind of life that you wake up to tomorrow. Now, let me clarify. Okay, let me be clear. There are some of us in this room that have had things happen to us that were not our choice. I get that. You didn't choose those things. They were horrible. But here's what I will say. You do get to decide what you're going to choose to do with what happened to you. You do get the choice there. And you can choose the direction that you're headed in your life. You get that choice. Because direction, it's far more important than the speed at which you're heading. Because for some of us here today, you are sprinting toward nothing. You are in a dead sprint to nowhere fast. So what if today, this regular, no spotlight, no fireworks, no confetti, post-holiday weekend is the day where you make a choice that changes everything? And I hope you will. What if today is the day that you stop drifting and you start deciding? You start choosing. Because the life you have tomorrow begins with the decisions you make today. And it's why I believe that today is the most important day of your life. So before we go anywhere, before I leave on vacation, before you go back to work, that was kind of mean. Before you go back into the week, to the month ahead, this is the question I want to wrestle to the ground. What kind of life does God want for you? Now, when we go back and look at the first time God made this crystal clear of what he wants for you and what he wants for me, it's very interesting because if we're going to take a next step today, we kind of need to know the direction we're heading. So today, there's some good news, okay? God's not vague when it comes to this question. He's not kept it a secret. He's not hidden it from anybody. In fact, he's made it pretty clear. In fact, from the very beginning of the scriptures, God has been someone who has been clear and inviting toward us. And one of the clearest moments in all of the scriptures we find is the Old Testament. And we know a guy named Moses, right? Moses, he led the Israelites out of Egypt, and we find him where we're going to pick up the story today, and he's at the end of his life. And for some of us, that will be the day we share some of the most important words we have to offer at the end of our life. And that's what Moses is doing. He's standing before a group of Israelites, a new generation of Israelites. And they're about to step into the promised land, and he's going to deliver a sermon, and it's like 30 chapter long sermon. So don't complain about any sermon lengths ever, okay? No Moses is here. But for him, he didn't want this next generation to miss or to repeat the mistakes that had been made. And he's saying to them, hey, if you want to know what God wants for you, I can show you. And so he does. He says, now, in other words, today, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? Now, obviously, when we hear that word require, some of us kind of, we tighten up, we turn off, we shut down. Because some of us struggle with the idea of surrendering to authority. I'm one of them. Because we want freedom. Not restrictions. We want options, not requirements. But I got bad news, okay? If you are in a relationship, it comes with requirements. Am I right, gentlemen that are married? Am I right, ladies that are married? There are requirements in that relationship. And what we need to understand, where we're picking up this story is, there was a relationship formed long before there were requirements given. God had established a relationship. He had rescued Israel. And then he gave them rules. I mean, just think about all that God had done for Israel up until this point. They were slaves in a foreign land, working themselves to death, and he gave them freedom. He had walked them through the Red Sea on dry land. He'd given them a cloud in the day and fire at night so they would know the way. He gave them water from a rock. He gave them manna, which, by the way, means what is it? They didn't even know what it is, but it was food, and he gave it to them. I mean, at this point in the story, could he ask for too much? I don't think he could. So with that relationship in mind, what does the Lord require? He says, he requires only that you fear the Lord your God and live in a way that pleases him and love him and serve him with all of your heart and soul. And you must always obey the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving to you today for your own good. So Moses, he's speaking to this next generation of Israelites, standing on the edge of the promised land. And he's telling them, don't repeat the mistakes of yesterday. Learn a lesson from the past generation. What should have taken us 11 days to walk took us 40 years. And not because God was unclear in directions. No, because the people were hard-headed. They were unwilling. They didn't want to surrender and obey. And delayed obedience, it cost them not just time. For a particular generation, it cost them their future. And Moses here is saying, today, for the love of my God, choose differently. Choose differently today. And he lays it out clearly. He lays out the requirements of what God asks of us: to fear him. And this isn't like terror as in like Freddy Krueger, okay? It's not that kind of terror. It's like an awe, an amazement of what God can do. Because fearing God will cause you to do what you don't want to do. Fearing God, it will cause you to keep going when you want to give up. Fearing God, it will make you more aware of his presence. It will cause you to dislike sin, because if sin bothers God, it should bother me and it should bother you. We should never be okay with God, what God disapproves of. And hear me, you know what God disapproves of? Anything that harms his kids. That's it. And fear, it causes us and inspires us to worship him, because if we really saw him for who he was, that's all we could do. And he says, walk in his ways. In other words, follow his lead. Where he goes, you follow. This indicates progress, a way of life. And this way of life, it doesn't happen overnight, despite what some want to tell you. This is a journey. It's an everyday decision. And he says, love him, because everything flows out of our love for God and our love for others. And this can be tricky. It can be, because you can obey from a motive that's not out of love. The Pharisees were living proof of that. So love him, serve him, not halfway, not part of the way, all the way, fully surrendered. Because serving is an external marker of what's going on inside for my love for God. So how do we serve him? We use our gifts, we use our talents, we use our todays, the resources he's given them, all for the kingdom, all for his church, all for meeting the needs of others. That's how we serve him. And obey his commands. Not to earn his love, because you can. He's already freely given it. And for Israel, he had already given it. They had it already. They didn't have to earn it. And according to Moses, there's personal benefit in this one. That God is motivated for their good. And guess what? He's motivated for your good. So it's not a game to him. And when I understand why God requires these things from me, it makes all the difference. Because rules are in place for good reasons. I've got 3 children. The youngest is the wildest of them all. And we have to set boundaries. Every time we leave a shopping mart, I have to remind him, there are cars in this parking lot. Do I tell him that because I hate his guts? No, I tell him that because I don't want to see his guts, okay? And he ain't paying attention. He's a space cadet. He's in his own world. But I can see the consequences of his actions and what could come. He doesn't have that perspective, but his father does. I don't want anything from him. I want something for him. Life. And that's what Moses is trying to say here. That God, he wants for you life. And then over the next 20 chapters, which we're not going to cover today because we didn't have time and my family will leave me. Moses, he unpacks this life for Israel and what it looks like. He goes deep into their history, into their habits, into who they are and their identity. They'd been slaves. They thought of themselves as property probably at this point. He talks about their worship and justice and generosity and obedience. He's not just giving them rules, he's giving them a way to prepare for a new way of life. Because they're free now. And after all of that, Moses, he circles back with this simple but powerful moment. And he's like, now that we've covered all that, now that you've heard everything I have to say in this sermon, what are you going to do with it? And it's almost like in this moment, Moses is begging them, encouraging them, pleading with them, inviting them, whatever term you want to use, to say, you can do this. God has given everything you need to accomplish this life he's promised. It's not incomprehensible. It's not inaccessible. It's not unreasonable. That it's possible. Anyone can accomplish and receive and live this life. You just have to have the potential to do what God requires of you. And you've got that potential. So Moses, he stands before this people and he says this, today, I have given you the choice. Today, not next week, not when it's convenient and your schedule will allow it. Right here, right now, today, I've given you this choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now, I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice that you make. And he pleads, oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. And you can make this choice by loving the Lord your God, obeying him, and committing yourself firmly to him. This is the key to life. This is the key to your life. For Moses and the Israelites, this wasn't just about their survival. It was about their potential. It was about their purpose. It was about their joy and their generational impact that they could have. And if it was true for them, I believe it's true for us. Because this kind of life is not just checking off boxes of the religious sort. It's about a relationship of love and loyalty and trust. And Moses is saying, if you want to live, this is how. He would point them to the light that comes when we love God and we cling to God. Now, hundreds of years later, another voice would step onto the pages of history. And that voice would echo the same invitation. He didn't just echo it, he embodied it and lived it. Because that life that Moses had talked about, it had come in flesh. And that voice that was heard on the side of a mountain was now walking among us. And he didn't come to replace the covenant. He came to fulfill it. And when he would say, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, it was the same invitation. And he would also say things like, if you love me, you obey my commands. Remain in me, cling to me by doing what I've shown you. Love one another the way I have loved you. So to follow Jesus is to listen to his words and to take his teaching seriously. It's to live by his love and embody sacrificial grace. It's to lead with his ways by moving people to become disciples that look like him. And Moses, he would say, choose life by clinging to God. And Jesus would say, cling to me and I will give you life. So Jesus, just like Moses, would make it crystal clear of his purpose for being here. There's no guessing and there's no fine print. My purpose is to give you a rich and satisfying life. Jesus did not come to burden us with a list of rules. He did not come to burden us with a religion. He came to invite us into life. Life that's fuller and freer and abundant. It satisfies in every possible way. It's more rooted in God. And it starts now. It starts today. But it doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen because you prayed a prayer once. It happens because you make a decision today. And at midnight, you know what tomorrow turns into? Today. And every today that follows, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you choose it and it's available to you. It's not automatic, but it's available. And you have to choose it. You have to choose him today. Jesus offers life, but you have to follow him to find it. This is his heart for you, and this is his heart for me. It's not just about a better Sunday. It's not just about a seat in heaven, although you get one of those. But some of us, we're so focused on what's to come that we're forgetting that we've got a today to live, that he invites us to invite him into today, that we can experience what heaven will be like today. We don't have to wait to die, that we can be alive to experience it. And he invites you to experience this life of freedom and peace and purpose starting now. So if Jesus came to give us life, what does that actually look like? What does it feel like to live that kind of life? Because if we're honest, sometimes we hear that verse that Jesus wants to give us a life of purpose and satisfying life. We hear that and we want to believe it, but it doesn't match how we feel because life's hard. We hear life to the full, but we're living a life that feels like I'm barely getting by. I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We're exhausted, we're worn down. We're carrying things we were never meant or intended to carry. And if we're being really honest, sometimes faith feels like another burden instead of a blessing. And I think Jesus would say, maybe you're doing it wrong. Because here's what Jesus would have to say to those people that are thinking those things and feeling that way. And I feel that way often, okay? He says, come to me, all of you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest in your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Jesus is saying, come to me. Walk with me. Let me carry what you were never intended to carry by yourself. This isn't about getting our act together. Although when we follow Jesus, it happens over time. For some of us, it takes longer than others. This isn't about a checklist. This isn't about religion. Because remember, Isaiah said, I'm coming to do a new thing. It's about coming home to the only one who can actually give you rest. And here's what I know. That invitation isn't just for someone else. It's for you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and this you. And it's available right now, today. Choosing Jesus is choosing life. So what are you waiting for? Because here's the point of the whole day. Here's the point of today. And when tomorrow turns into today, it's going to be the same point. What's your next step? If today really is the most important day of your life, what will you do with it? What will you do with today? Because every person in this room, every person at all of our campuses, every person that's watching online has a next step today. Maybe your next step is to come back next week. Now, some of us that have forgotten what it's like to not be in church would say, that's a small thing to do. But I would encourage you, that's the next step. Just start a rhythm. Just build a habit. Because sometimes choosing life looks like showing up again. Don't let someone be a Debbie Downer to your next step. Maybe your next step is to say yes to Jesus for the first time. Maybe for some, you've believed in Jesus, but you've never fully surrendered your heart to the King. Today's your day. Maybe for some of you, your next step is to say yes to getting baptized, to go public with your faith, to say with your actions what's already taken place in your heart. Today's your day. For some of you, it's to forgive someone. You've been carrying around bitterness and anger and resentment. Maybe today is the day you release that weight you've been carrying. And it's not because they deserve it. It's because you need it. Because it's killing you. It's not leading you to life, it's leading you to death. For some of us here today, maybe your next step is to confess something that's hidden. Maybe your next step is to stop hiding, to be known fully, warts and all. And in that, what you find is freedom. For some of us here today, maybe your next step is to ask for help. To stop pretending that you've got it all figured out. To acknowledge that you are a mess. And to begin healing. For some here today, it's to take a next step to serve. To shift your focus from what you need to what you can give. Because what I've found is the best version of Nate is the one that serves others. Because I'm not thinking about Nate. And for you, maybe, it's that you can use your gifts for something bigger than you. For some here today is to be generous in some way, shape, or form. To release control, to trust God with everything that you have, including your dollar bills. To trust God with what's in your hand. For someone today, your next step is to obey in that one area where you've been holding back. You've given him everything else, but you've got that one room closed and you won't turn it over. What if today you gave it to him? Whatever it is, whatever your next step is, don't wait. Don't put it off. Don't overthink it. You don't need more time. You just need to make the most of this time. You need to make the most of today. And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to move. Because the most important day of your life is today. So, what will you do with today? With our eyes closed and our heads bowed. For all of us in this room, you've got a next step. I don't know what it is. I can't decide what it is for you, but God is putting on your heart right now what you need to do. Why wait? Today could be the day that changes everything in your faith. Not because it's big, but because it's real. Because it's yours. And the invitation is yours today to choose life. Father, in these moments, I would just pray that we not put off to tomorrow what we can do today. That you are poking and prodding and drawing hearts to you. Father, I just pray that we would listen and that we would move into the today that you've promised us, a today of life, so that our tomorrows would be better because of it. And it's in this moment we give it to you. And I pray these things in Christ's name.